Hello and welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. We've got more Q&A from you guys. Now everyone who's on Patreon, right, everyone over there, I want to be able to answer all your calls. You guys really do a great job of supporting everything we do here. And I find your comments, I find your questions, it's just, they're valuable to me. They cause me to think, they cause me to question not only everything out in the world, but everything that I think. And to me, it's really valuable. So, I want to start with a question by Bonnie Blue 2A. Bonnie has been a great participant for years on the channel. Thank you again, Bonnie. How long, or she asks, how does one big bank precious metals trading desk, JP Morgan, manage to manipulate the market? Don't other big banks like Goldman Sachs and Merrill Lynch also have precious metals trading desks? What about the trading desks of the international big banks? Really good questions. Now, I'll attempt to answer them the best I can, based on the information I've collected over the years. We'll just start with working with just JP Morgan. A trading desk isn't like me and you with just one desk. A trading desk is a lot of people, a lot of desks. It's a section of the bank. And they have multiple traders. They've got a lot of people working. If you recall, when Deutsche Bank said that they were going to, reduce their labor costs, right? They got rid of not 5 or 10 employees. They got rid of thousands and thousands of bankers, right? That's because these trading desks, so much more is becoming automated, or rather computer controlled. They could get rid of their traders. They don't need them, right? They've been replaced by automation. How about that, right? It's not just factory workers. So JP Morgan, how did they do it? They do it one of two ways. They do it by using a lot of different trades or traders, and then they do it with very big volume. You and I, we're just regular people. If we had money to put in the stock market, right, we can't affect price. But when you're JP Morgan, you are big enough, massive amounts of not only different traders, human labor, but just the sheer volume, the amount of money they can throw. If there was a $10 billion market, and you, right, if that was, say, the market capacity, the market cap of any stock, it was $10 billion, and you had $1 billion and you wanted to cause that market to go up or down, you could do it. You could do it by buying the stock, right, and causing it to go up, and then selling it as fast as you can and causing it to go down, right? They're interested in the profit. The other way would be to go and look at that $10 billion market and sell. These are called naked shorts. Sell, right? All of a sudden, you are selling the living shit out of something that you don't even own. And then you come back at the end of the day and you buy it low because you've caused it to fall really fast, and then you buy it back cheap. They can push price up or down. They can push price up or they can pull it down and then make money both ways. You just have to have an awful lot of money, and these big banks can do that. Now, we might go, well, why is it that silver always goes down? Why is it that gold was held still for 6 years? Well, because they wanted it down. Because not only was JP Morgan making money by controlling which way the market went, JP Morgan on the back end is buying physical silver. They're buying literal bars, right? 1,000-kilo bars, whatever it is they could get their hands on. They're buying those bars. Why? Well, because eventually they knew the price is going to have to come up. Eventually they knew that it was going to become more valuable, so they could collect bars on the back end while holding the price nice and low. Wouldn't you like to be able to hold the price of gold at $1,000, or I'm sorry, $100 an ounce, and then decide, okay, let's let it go and it'll go up to $2,000, increase your holdings by 20% then? So you make money on all the trading, and then you make money on the physical. JP Morgan has put themselves in a position to do that. Now, of course, I believe that the value of silver is going to increase, not only because they've restrained the cost of that silver so much, but because there are new technologies that are coming out that are going to make silver far more valuable than it just is as a precious metal and industrial metal with specialty uses. You know, after oil, silver is the most useful product on the planet. And it sells literally dirt cheap. I wish I had money so I could buy some. Anyways, that's what JP Morgan is doing. That's how they do it. Now, the question number 2 was, don't other big banks like Goldman Sachs and Merrill Lynch also have precious metals? The answer is yes, they have trading desks also. How much they delve into metals, gold or silver, platinum or palladium, I don't know. I don't know how much. We do know that JP Morgan is big on it. We know that JP Morgan bought Bear Stearns' shorts, their holdings, when they collapsed back in 2008. Right? They basically adopted those positions, meaning they just bought in. You go to a poker table, someone lays their cards down, right, and they walk off. Well, you can just take over their cards and start playing them, right, and throw your money down. Anyways, that was a lousy analogy. Yes, other big banks are involved. And then the third question is, what about the trading desk at the international big banks? Well, Deutsche Bank, they've gotten in a lot of trouble for this. Not only can they just drive prices one way or the other with massive volumes of buying or selling, they can also do what's called spoofing. And spoofing is what a lot of these guys are in trouble for. Interestingly, the entire banking cartel of JP Morgan can be held liable, and they can have their assets frozen and taken from them under RICO statutes, which are racketeering statutes, because of what they've done and the criminal implications. And it's not just the traders that did it, it's everyone in the institution, because it starts looking like it starts falling under organized crime. Now, what's amazing about this is that is not said by me. It's not said by some other wacko on here on YouTube. That type of language was used by the prosecutors. Finally, the SEC, CFTC, the Department of Justice, the Attorney General's office, someone somewhere in the government decided to do their fucking job. Very nice. But what about the international big banks? Deutsche Bank got in trouble for the same thing, for spoofing and influencing the market in an illegal fashion. Not only did they do it also, but they sent emails to other banks, I believe in England, London. It wouldn't surprise me if they didn't coordinate with each other. We're going to do this, so let's use the combined power of all of our banks to just smash the ever-loving shit out of the price. We're going to drive it down. We don't get those kind of days where they drive it up, the big banks. They tend to drive it down. JP Morgan wants to buy physical metal. So it wouldn't surprise me if other banks aren't doing the same thing as well. Banks like Goldman Sachs or Merrill Lynch and other investment firms, they may want to buy their own too, so they're going to benefit. I know they make their money on paper, that's their big deal, but JP Morgan, they've got reserves, real reserves now. So that's how they do it. The spoofing thing. That is putting an order up there, and it's visible on the computers to all these trading companies and banks that have computers that can see everyone else's buy and sell. Right? When it gets to $18.20, we're going to sell off 1,000 shares. And they put that out there, and everyone goes, oh, they're going to sell at this point. Right? And so everyone else sells off. Well, they pull their order, or they put in a buy order. And they're like, when it drops down to 18, we're going to buy 100,000 ounces. Right? And so everyone's like getting ready. Okay, when it hits there, we're going to buy in at the low point and it's going to go up. So it drops down to there. Everyone buys in, but they pulled that order. That's the spoofing thing. And it's used to get everyone else to do their dirty work for them. And they just pull their money back out. Right? It's kind of a way to camouflage and hide what they're doing. Very chicken shit. Anyways. Great questions. It's a big, big, big deal because unlike stocks for some other company, gold and silver, and especially gold, are tied to the value of currency, money. It's a big, big deal. And they don't want their money, their currency, the US dollar, the British pound, the euro, etc. They don't want it to look like crap. They don't want people to lose confidence in it, so they need to keep the metals down. Okay, on an unrelated aside, a laboratory in Russia, Vector Lab, that houses both the smallpox and Ebola viruses has had an explosion and fire. Yes, it has. There's some concern that that those diseases escaped out ventilation, broken windows, doors, you name it, right? Vials broke, got into the open. Big question mark. I have NBC gas masks right down there, as usual, just sitting there waiting for an emergency. If that were to become a problem, right? If there was an Ebola breakout, we need to be aware of it and we need to be able to protect ourselves. Being a prepper is being aware. It's having the necessary items for emergencies, and that's it. What can you do? I mean, it's really suspicious. I'm glad that Bonnie brought it up because I haven't addressed it yet, but it's just one more piece in the chain of bullshit that's going on. Also, right, we had the Aramco bombing, and then we had a refinery in Italy blow up, catch fire. And then we had one in Mexico blow up and catch fire also. What is the deal with refineries now? Starting to smell to me kind of suspicious. It just does. Any chance that the Iraqi island bomb last week was part of this, having to do with the Saudi oil refinery? There is a chance. Unfortunately, Kevin, we can never really know because we'll never get the facts. It could have been in retaliation for bombing that, right? It could have been. And same with other attacks in Italy and then Mexico that I just described. They could have said, okay, screw it, you're going to bomb us, we're going to take out your oil refineries. Interestingly, why did ISIS, if that's the case, need that as an excuse? Doesn't ISIS, Islamic State, don't they just want to kill us anyways? You know, trying to coordinate a bunch of oil refinery attacks they can't even seem to manage to put 1 and 1 together and equal 2. I think terrorist groups are, they're not that bright. Our infrastructure here in the United States is so open to attacks. It is scary. Whether we're talking about the power grid, freshwater supply, wastewater, food supply, fuel supply, it is incredibly vulnerable. And these idiotic international terrorist organizations can't manage to do anything. So I find that part makes it kind of hard to believe, but yeah, in truth, it really could be. It really could be. Moving down to Maximus, he writes, John asked how long it will take to change the nation politically. Yuri Bezmenev says it takes 30 years. Yuri Bezmenev, brilliant. He was a Soviet, I think he was a defector. He came over to the United States and taught in the 80s Americans what communism is, how it works, how their indoctrination programs, how everything works. He lays it out beautifully, and it is actually nauseating. You know, the guy is brilliant. He's articulate. He speaks great English. He understands the program. I recommend watching some of his videos and understanding. Now, do these kids, these little commies here in this country, do they understand what they're doing and how it works? No. They are tools, right? Do the leaders really understand? They understand a little more. But the people that put this system together, how to turn something communist, it does take generations. You know, if Yuri says 30 years, I have to defer to him. He's the expert. But to change a nation politically back, right, is more difficult because, and we're talking without a civil war, without a partisan war, without a revolution, because they have an effort they've put into it. and they're going to continue to push to get their way while you're pushing back. So if they're pushing one way and we're pushing the other, you don't move. Right? So communists is coming and we fight back. We've got to not only meet them with the same force, but push them the other way. So in order to change a nation's direction politically, it takes an incredible amount of energy. And I don't believe it can be done in a nonviolent way, not at this stage. So John Lyxicato says, John, next time you are stressed, you might want to try watching the first hour of Full Metal Jacket, Stanley Kubrick's great look at the Marine Corps and Vietnam War. He writes, I'm pretty sure that after the Paris Island sequence is finished, you'll be thinking, quote, thank God I don't have to do that again. I was a Hollywood Marine. I went to boot camp at MCRD San Diego. Never been to Paris Island. But I got to tell you, I don't know if you want to call it stress or just anxiety. There is so much going on, it's hard to keep up with. I found that things like watching Full Metal Jacket don't help me a bit. I actually watched that movie. It came out just prior to me going to boot camp. A friend of mine was considering going to boot camp as a Marine, enlisting, and he changed his mind after watching that movie. It scared the ever-loving piss out of him. He was like, I don't think I can handle that. And what do you do, right? Some people, it's their thing, and other people, no. Anyways, thank you very much, John. Regarding the appropriation of prepping and illegal immigration video, Vinny writes, it could very well be part and parcel of an economic war against the USA. This is how the IRA tactics were used in Northern Ireland, and still is, he writes. Military, propaganda, and economic fronts at the same time. Part of their plan was to cripple Britain financially, never pleading guilty so that there was always a full trial, resulting in maximum sentencing of the activists, smuggling drugs, fuel laundering, anything to cost the British government extra. These tactics were very successful for the most part. Seeing as the IRA and the illegal immigrants in USA are funded by the same Marxist regimes, it would be reasonable to believe they are using the same tactics. Just a thought. Stay frosty and watch your six. Thank you, Vinny. Yes, absolutely, I agree with you. The same tactics have been used for hundreds of years now. They've been developed over the last several hundred years. How do you take a population that is not behaving the way you want and get them to behave the way you want? Right? You have to weaken the government. You have to change the social structure. You have to remove and affect their incomes and their economic machine. You can do this with prostitution, human trafficking. You can do it with drugs, literal illegal drugs. You get people hooked on drugs. You develop black markets, right? And this brings down the social and moral qualities of a society, of a nation. You can affect it through education. That's what the Marxists love to do, is through the education system. Affecting the economy. Even yes, going to court and saying, I'm not going to do a plea bargain. We're going to make this cost more money. We're going to tie up the court. All of those things are third column tactics, right? Anything you can do to hamper and make the enemy, their life more difficult, they do. And so in this country, right, the tactics used are everything across the board. We are attacked using the media, propaganda, the entertainment industry. They use education. They do use drugs, both illicit, illegal drugs, as well as pharmaceuticals. They want people on all kinds of drugs. They're easier to control. They want people sick, so they make shit food for us. Right? You can see the effects that have been started and why. I called it social engineering. People used to laugh, John, social engineering. Really? Look at all these kids who can't decide what gender they are while they're being fed estrogen-laced food and chemicals. Like triclosan soap, antibacterial soap. It's full of estrogen. Synthetic estrogen nonetheless. I have friends that work in the medical industry. They go, you can't believe the amount of men that have man boobs, and they now have to come in for breast cancer scanning because they're getting lumps. Men are growing breasts and getting lumps. Why? It's not an accident. It's not an accident. None of this is an accident. So I agree totally. Great comments, Vinny. What a deal. Iowa Farm Boy. The NRA sues San Francisco for branding it a domestic terrorist organization. I kind of touched on this, I think, at some point, but let's just cover it again. San Francisco, right? They are definitely liberal, right? They figure they can just be cool and cute and just say the NRA is a terrorist organization. And it's great that the NRA is going to sue them now. This terrorist organization is going to go to court, right? And say, look what you've done, right? Right? You've defamed them. It's libel, it's slander, it's all of those things. It's written down, they're saying it on the news, they're idiots. You have to prove stuff like that. Now, can a city, an incorporated city and county, can they just designate someone a terror group? What authority does San Francisco have? By the way, San Francisco fills up all of San Francisco County, so it's a city and county of San Francisco. What right do they have to do that? And how would they go about enforcing it? I mean, could they say, if you're an NRA member living in San Francisco, that you are now a terrorist under a terrorist organization? They can come and arrest you, take your property, civil asset forfeiture. You see the implications of this. It's not just name calling and playing games. They are trying to incrementally take control of the language. The same way they started with just silly political correctness in the early 90s. They're like, that's not politically correct, John. And I've been fighting political correctness since then. I have the right to speak. I have the right to think. I have the right to hear other people's thoughts if I want to hear them, or turn things off, walk away. I have that right, and they're trying to take that from us by controlling the language, controlling the words we use. That's what these people are doing. And they're trying to designate an organization that is always been a patriotic organization, that has looked to the Second Amendment as vital to national security interests as well as individual security interests. You know, we don't always agree and don't think they do a great or big enough job. I don't think the NRA does, but this is a big step here. You know, I believe the federal government, pursues terrorists. That would be FBI. But I guess, we're going to find out where this one goes. Just something interesting. Yankee Watchdog writes, John, when I found your channel on YouTube, I was working in the oil patch. Back in 2012, oil was $105 a barrel. I remember that. Oh, man. With two F-350s and an F-250 in my stables during construction. I remember those prices. I don't think we'll ever see that again, he writes. All the lifers there, meaning old-time roughnecks, said when it does come back, it will go even higher. It always does. Time will tell. Well, thank you, Yankee Watchdog. You roughnecks are some tough bastards. It could go back up high. Interestingly, there was a big expectation with the Aramco terror explosions and bombings or whatever the hell happened there, that the oil price was going to go a lot higher. And Aramco, Saudi Arabia, they need $100 barrel in oil. I know that here in America, they need 85 minimum to be profitable in the shale fracking industry. And that is just it is a big, massive corporate debt black hole. Those are zombie companies. They are not making their money. Anyways, the price went up, and somewhat, it went up 20%. I didn't see that. I looked at, my stock ticker went up 10 bucks, not 20. Anyways, and it came right back down. It's still a little higher than it was, but immediately Trump came out and said, hey, don't worry, we got our own oil, released strategic reserves, no worries. And then it was reported again, on top of all of that, hey, there's plenty of stockpiles around the world. This isn't a problem at all. And the price is ticking back down. We know where oil should be, but the economy can't support it up there. You start raising the oil price, it affects the fuel price, and guess what? People travel less. They've only got so much money, and just because you raise the price of oil or the price of a gallon of gas, they don't get more money to spend on it. They just spend less money elsewhere. In a way, with all of the personal debt, it's more of a zero-sum game now than it used to be, where people would go, you know what? I only have $10,000 cash, but I've got credit cards. I can get a personal loan for a big old vacation. I can afford to buy that $100,000 supercar, right? And they just go into debt and say, fuck it, living like a king, right? Now, we don't have that flexibility. We've got debt, mortgage debt, student loan debt, auto debt, credit card debt. And so we can't go into more debt. We don't have that kind of flexibility anymore. So if they raise the price, people just say, fuck it, not going anywhere. And this year they said, well, people can't afford vacations this year. And I started seeing on my internet feed, instead of seeing, hey, you can go on a vacation and cruise the Rhine River. You could go and sail up the river into Russia and see St. Petersburg. You could sail the Yingjiang River in China, whatever the fuck that river is. You could do that. Those used to be, $10,000, $20,000, cruises, these river cruises. Now I'm seeing ads for Mississippi River cruise at about, 33% of the cost. It's a lot cheaper. It's closer. It's domestic. There's less travel just to get there. Yeah, you can still have that river cruise. It's just going to be in America. And it really is a big country, and it's a beautiful country, and there's a lot to see here in the United States of America. And, why go overseas if we've got such beautiful things here that people haven't seen? Some amazing, amazing things to see in America. Still, don't have the money. Now they changed their advertising. We just don't have that kind of liquidity. We don't have access to more debt because we can barely service the debt, right? They could give you more credit, but if you can't afford the payments, right? That's what we got. That's what we're looking at. So thank you again, everybody, for these great questions. I enjoy it, every minute of it. And this week has just been a big week. I have cut down to 2 videos a day. It seems to be working better. I also want to thank everybody because I noticed a difference in my analytics here at Google. By putting your computers on and just leaving them and letting it do a prepared mind marathon. Just run through the videos. It's ticked the numbers up. We're getting more responses. The YouTube is spreading the word for us, right? The analytics are showing it. So everyone who's done just set their computer and walked, that is helping support our efforts here. And a lot of channels are saying we're losing subscribers. We're hanging on. We're hanging on really well at The Prepared Mind, which means we're getting more new subscribers than we were in the past. And even though we're losing some off the back end, we're keeping up really well. And it's thanks to you guys and your efforts. And once again, doing that binge watching marathon, just let your computer run through The Prepared Mind. It's great. It's helping out tremendously, and I thank you for it. Couple of pennies worth of electricity puts a couple of good notches on the old gun stock, as it were. So you guys be cool. Chance favors. The Prepared Mind is yours. And we'll talk again really, really soon. Thank you.